And a very pleasant good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of JMU Sound Off. I am Jonathan McNamara. It is a bye week for JMU football, so the focus of today's show is all about what's going to happen on the hard court starting tomorrow as both JMU men's basketball and JMU women's basketball tip off their 2024 season. We have head coach Preston Spradlin and head coach Sean O'Regan here for tonight's episode to get you all primed for the upcoming season, give you a little insight into how these teams are preparing for tomorrow's matchups. We're also then going to get a little bit into, at the end of the show, the Duke's upcoming matchup this week at home against Georgia State in another big Sun Belt contest. But as always, we want to start off today's show by mentioning our sponsors. First of all, the Montpelier Collective. Right off the top of the episode, we just have to say thank you to all of you for supporting Champions Dry Bourbon. We sold out the initial offering of 1,200 bottles of Champions Drive. Every one of those bottles that was purchased goes directly to support every one of the teams on campus at JMU. And you also got a pretty great bourbon that's going to make your tailgate experience that much better. But stay tuned, because if you have a J bottle, we are getting set to release the next in the 3-bottle series, which is going to be all about F-Lot. It is going to have an M charm on it, so that's the next version of that series, the second bottle in a collector's set. So stay tuned over the weeks to come for more information about that, as well as some information about some holiday gift boxes that you can give to the person with purple blood in your circle, or just for yourself if you're trying to treat yourself for the holidays. Best way to find out all the information about anything related to the Montpelier Collective and how you can support is montpeliercollective.com, as well as on their social channels. Also want to give a shout out to Mike Norwood and the team at Where's Woody. As we mentioned last week, we got a chance to see Mike at homecoming. Lots of people picking up Where's Woody gear. Great to see. This is a JMU owned company that is making real investments in student athletes on campus, partnering in this new world of NIL to advance their own personal brands and to get them connected through Where's Woody. So if you're looking for some great holiday gifts as you go to the holidays and want to support another JMU-owned business, where'swoody.com. I also want to give a shout out to Jared Jerubi and Talent Core, Shoker Enterprises, and then our friends at yourpurplenation.com. Again, Carol Benassi and the team there now with 3 stores, Richmond, Northern Virginia, and Virginia Beach. And with that, we're going to bring on the other 2 hosts of JMU Sound Off. Taylor Atkins has the night off. Steve and Michael, I'll start with you, Steve. How'd you spend your bye week?
Getting ready for hoops. Watched a little football, scouted a little bit of Georgia State on Friday night, and then watched ODU and Coastal. Couldn't happen to better teams, so it did enjoy watching those two. So did a little yard work, did a bunch of other stuff that wasn't anything football related, and recharged. I'm getting ready for the 4-game stretch. I'm going to go 4-0. That's all I know, and so is this team.
There you go. Michael, what about you?
I was going to say, I think I was like the total opposite of my typical self. I think I watched maybe 7 minutes of football this entire week. 6 of those probably being the South Alabama game because obvious interest, but kind of like Steve, I kind of did some yard work, did some stuff around the house. We're going to, after the Georgia State game, we're going to head down to Florida for a few weeks. So we'll be out of the house for a little bit. Thought about putting up some Christmas lights maybe. I don't know if it's too early. Maybe that's a little sacrilegious, but yeah, I think I was enjoying sort of like the home life a little bit. It was different. It was different to say the least.
There you go. I bought myself a leaf vacuum that actually mulches the leaves. Yeah, didn't even know it was a thing. Ryobi, they're not a sponsor, but
we bought an edger. I edged the yard this week. It was cool. I mowed the grass.
This is
very
groundbreaking stuff.
All I have is Ryobi. All I've got is Ryobi stuff. We should. I'll contact those folks and see if we can get them.
40-volt vacuum and mulcher, $149 at Home Depot. Just save your back.
I'm a Milwaukee man, but I know Ryobi. They're kind of the same thing, but that's for another episode.
Hey, vacuum and leaves. A+ stuff here. With that, we're gonna get to the stuff that everyone wants to hear tonight. I can't think of a better way to introduce our first guest, head coach Sean O'Regan from JMU women's basketball. The fact that he cares so much about this season that he's willing to join us on the night before his first game of the season. He's on the road. He's in a ballroom somewhere in Ohio. Coach, thanks for taking time. Where are you at tonight? Tell the fans.
I'm sitting here at the Kent State Hotel in Kent, Ohio. It's very luxurious. I'm actually in a little conference room here with the cleanest back wall I could find.
There you go. Well, Sean, For fans who are not familiar with your first opponent, kind of set the stage for this matchup and why it's so important for your group to really start off this season on a high note against a team that is a tough start in what's going to be a really challenging schedule as you go throughout your conference schedule, even before you reach Sun Belt play.
Yeah, obviously we have some headliners, but there's some really, really good teams on our schedule. This being one of them, Kent State being one of them. And, we went down to a tournament in Tampa where we're going to play Northern Arizona and Florida. And I thought Northern Arizona was the light one, but they're picked to win their league too. So that's just how our season's going to be this year. So Kent State was a part of a really tough MAC conference last year where Toledo and Ball State both were bubble teams. We played at Ball State in the MAC Sun Belt Challenge last year and got cut up pretty good. Kent State ran through Ball State and Buffalo beat Toledo, and Kent State ended up going to the NCAA tournament and playing Notre Dame very, very closely. So really good team. Todd Starkey was the head coach at Lenore-Rhyne down in North Carolina for a long time. We played him in an exhibition game when I was here with Kenny Brooks, and I have a lot of respect from anybody who's been doing this for over 10 years. I want to bow down to, because I got so much respect for him. So really skilled basketball team, very good defensive basketball team. And just, they know who they are. And they've got some kids. They got a preseason first team conference kid. They got a really good sophomore center. So they're dangerous, and we're up here at their place. Right. So, the one thing you can learn really quickly about a road game is that, the game rewards toughness, and you're going to have to be tough and deal with some sort of adversity. And whatever that is, you never know. Right. But, our team is ready. We're prepared. We believe, and, we got to go out and execute. And that's the toughest part of this whole thing, is that you can prepare all you want and think you know what they're going to do, and they think, they know what we're going to do. But, that first game, you got to expect the unexpected.
Awesome.
So I was going to get you to talk a little bit about your players, and then we'll get into a little scheduling. So just so if the fans haven't been looking at basketball, you've got a really good core group of folks that are back. You want to talk a little bit about them and some of the new folks that you've got?
Sure. Obviously the headliners, Peyton McDaniel, preseason player of the year, obviously was our leader throughout last year. And last year, coming off of when Kiki Jefferson had left, Peyton really stepped up, took her a second to get her feet on the ground, but had a great Sun Belt conference year. And, her, Susha Kozlova have both added to their games. Both of them have improved, and both of them are preseason all conference. The sneaky one, right, is Jamia Hazel, who's played for me for 4 years and played more minutes than anybody ever, and is entering her 5th year. I expect her to have a good year and not to make some giant jump from 9 points a game to 25, but just become more efficient. And just listening to her in practices and in meetings, she's saying what I'm saying. She's speaking my language, and that's what the benefit of having a veteran like that. So Peyton, Jamia, and Anna Goodman, again, they're all in their 5th year. I mean, how unique is that in college basketball in general right now? And so those three are the longest returners, right? We still have Susha. Shanti Barnes is in her 2nd year and has looked as good as anybody so far in practice and in our scrimmages. And Micaiah Tynes obviously is in her 4th year. And I'm trying to go through all of her. Olivia Mullins is in her 2nd year from St. Joe's. And I'm trying to think. We have 8 kids that are entering their 4th year of college basketball or 5th. And it seems like, just play those 8 kids, right, and call it a day. But the 3 newcomers that we have, Rose Scott was averaging 22 a game at Marshall, 6 games in, and didn't fit that style. So transferred mid-year or got her papers mid-year. And so she's here, super talented, and has been really good buying into our style and what I'm asking her to do, which is play both ends of the floor, rebound, be a great teammate, all those things in addition to her scoring. And I expect she was preseason 3rd team, has obviously respect around the league. And the other two to add on to is Akai Stevenson. She'll start at the 1 for us, transfer from Ole Miss, but played at Princess Anne down at 757, and just absolutely dominates a game when she wants to. And getting her to play all I don't want to say 40 minutes. She's not going to play 40 minutes, but all 28 of her minutes is the challenge, right? And how valuable she is, and how powerful she is, and how powerful she can be. And the last one I'll mention before I pipe down is Bree Robinson. Is she's going to be a fan favorite. She plays so hard. Transfer from Michigan State, originally from Toronto, Canada, and people are just going to love her. How hard she plays, her smile. She's just one of those kids that's got that draw for people. So we've got the pieces. My part of my job is making sure they can fit together, and we're going to do that eventually. Hopefully, it's sooner than later, right? But we've got the pieces, and I'm excited about them, and that's the most important part. Is that we've got the ingredients to make chicken salad.
You got actually the ingredients to make chicken cordon bleu. This is that's a really, it's unbelievably talented team. And so the question I was going to ask is, how do you keep them all happy? Because, with that group, if somebody's got an ego, it can go south quick. And I know you don't put up with that. So I'm assuming during practices over the summer and practices going into the fall, these guys have kind of meshed together and have a real good feel in terms of culture, and there's no egos involved. But I figure I'll ask the question. You got 10 players that could start anywhere, and probably more than 10 that could start anywhere, but at least 10. How do you kind of get all that checked so that everybody kind of plays as one unit?
Yeah, it's part of the toughest part of the job, right? Is getting people to buy into whatever role it is. And I think it's easier when you have a leader like Peyton McDaniel, who's so selfless. Even Anna Goodman, who I think is an incredibly selfless player. Those are your core. Even Jamia, right? Jamia could do more than what she's doing as far as points, shots, stuff like that. So those are your fifth-year kids that have been in the program, and I think relying on that leadership is a way to do it. But understand why you're here. Like, if you're a Rose Scott or you're a Bree Robinson or a Zakiah, why are you here? You're not here just because I'm going to let you shoot anytime you want, right? You're here to win. That's what this program is. And I think, keeping that at the forefront, right? Team first, winning first, over those individual accolades. If you can do that, you'll end up probably getting more of the individual accolades than if you're just trying to chase that by yourself, right? So that's, I think, any coach's challenge in this day and age, in this when your roster turns over as much as it does year to year. I think everybody encounters that challenge more than the seniority piece that was 15 years ago, right? The seniority piece where, if I was a freshman, going into sophomore year, I knew who was in front of me, right? That those days are over. And so, I think that's part of it. But it will be a challenge, and it's not like you get it done before your first game and you're finished, right? It's a constant massaging with your team and figuring out how best to do it. But player led is better than coach led, and I've always said that.
You're playing you're not playing Little Sisters of the Poor tomorrow. So you're playing a really good team. This team went 21-11 last year. Played Notre Dame hard in the NCAA tournament. I know they lost 81-67, but I watched some of that game, and they're good, and they got a lot of people back. So to talk a little bit about Kent State, and then we'll jump into a couple other schedule things. No,
they're just really good. They're well coached. Jenna Batch is their best player and not their only player. Their center Janae Tyler was given. I think she had 22 at Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. At Notre Dame, right? Like, this is not in the NCAA tournament with stuff on the line. So, their point guard played for West Virginia Thunder AAU team, which I'm a huge favorite for. So shout out Scott Johnson. But they know what they're doing. They're well coached. They're going to play hard. They're going to make it really tough defensively. They out rebound Ball State, I think 44-20 in the semis. And it's like, if you're rebounding anybody 44-20, that's something you do very well. So, I've been, I don't, the first game of the year is tough, right? Because it's unlimited time. I feel like I've watched 18 of their games. And I don't know if I can watch one more. I feel like I know everything about them. I felt like when they won the MAC championship, I was sitting there kind of rooting for them too, because I had so much time invested in them. So I have a lot of respect for them. It's going to take a really great effort to come away with a win. And just like the men did last year, right? I remember Byington say they had a however long home winning streak, and he made a miracle happen up here. So that's something, we're not trying to make a miracle happen, but we're trying to come away with a really, really hard fought win. And if this group can play together tomorrow, then we can do that.
Well, let's talk about some other stuff you've got on the schedule, because this is a loaded schedule. You're at Notre Dame November 13th. You've got Florida coming to town November 29th. You're at VCU on December 5th, and you've got Texas coming to town on December 8th, and then you're at NC State. So, there's some great games. Everybody should go to as many games as they possibly can. But even on the road, if you're in Richmond, get to the VCU game, and we're going to truck down to the NC State game. And I'm thinking about going to Notre Dame. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to Notre Dame, but I'm going to try to get there. So you want to talk a little bit about your schedule's a beast. Your out-of-conference schedule's a beast of a schedule. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you might have to come pull me out of Bellevue at Christmas here, okay? But no, I really, that's what I believe, right? I just want to challenge our team, and I know, I've never ever challenged our team this hard. As far as I've never had 3 top 10 teams ever. One, sure. 1.5, like, they were in there and they dropped out, but you're talking about 3 top 10 teams. So we'll find out who we are really quickly here. And, I was really glad outside of that to add the ECU, right? That's a home and home. So we get them at home this year. We'll be at their place next year. VCU now, we were able to continue the series, which is great. And any chance we get to go that way, Richmond 757, I'm all for it. And I would do it every year. And unfortunately, we weren't able to continue the William & Mary series. I really wanted to do that. But VCU, please come out to that game. NC State, I've known Wes a long time, and he was able to do that kind of not as a favor, but Jamia Hazel is from Raleigh, and she's been incredibly loyal, and he was able to let us come play them then. But yeah, I'm really thrilled. Even Villanova, right? I like the drivable road game to the north, right? Because we still have a great community, right, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Peyton is from that way, 40 minutes away, so she'll have a huge crowd for Villanova. But even our fan base, right? I want to play as many drivable road games as we can play. You don't always get to choose, right? And I'm sure Preston's going to agree with that when he gets on here. But I would love to do that. I would love to play as many drivable road games. I would love to play Virginia. I would love to play Virginia Tech, right? That just makes sense to me. Always has. But yeah, for us, we've got a really super challenging schedule. I will correct you on one thing. Florida is in a tournament in Tampa. It's not at home. I wish it was, but that's okay. I don't want anybody showing up November 29th with no game to see. But again, even that, right? Like that's Florida on a neutral floor. That's what we're looking for here. And so, look, I'm not delusional enough to think we're going to be undefeated. We're not going to be undefeated. That's a fact. But I tell you what, we're gonna know where we're weak, and we're gonna know what we should be practicing and how we can get better. If it's whatever, if it's man defense, if it's zone offense, if it's press offense. The whole goal here is to win the Sun Belt, and that's what we have to do. And this schedule is going to help us get there. And so that's how I wanted to do it. And the Texas ad was the last game, so we had one more game to add. And he wanted us to come. Vic Schaefer wanted us to come play a nationally televised game in Dallas. And I said, look, man, it's right during finals. I can't do that. I can't travel. And he said, well, what if I come to you? And it was like, I'm not passing that up. I don't care. UConn, man, I'm not passing up a home game with Texas. I'm just not doing that. So it was a real cherry on top of an already very full Sunday. But I really I can't ask for it enough that we can totally fill the place for that particular game. And I think that's going to be the difference for us is if that thing has 8,000, if AUBC has 8,000 people in it, I think, they'll see a great product and they'll give us a better chance to maybe perform a miracle on a team that could win a national championship this year.
Well, there's a guy in Kentucky that you could reach out to play us in 2025, 26. He grew up in my hometown. I can give Kenny a call and say, hey.
I literally, we were 5 minutes ago, text him right here. Just a preseason good luck.
I love it. Well, let me turn you over to Michael.
Coach, first off, thanks for spending your Sunday evening with us. I know you've got a big day tomorrow with the opening tip-off. Unless you've been living under the rock, for all of our listeners, we've had a lot of really awesome announcements this week or the last couple of weeks for JMU Sports. One of which is Coach Neil Harrow, coming back to the program. So for some of our listeners, I think he had a tremendous impact, spending a couple of years at Troy. We were able to land him, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, had a tremendous impact, left 2 years ago, left to go join the LA Sparks, is now back with the program. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about, what is the impact of that, right? Whether it's on and off the court. I think it's pretty well known of sort of Neil Harrow has really done a great job within women's basketball and athletics in general. So talk to a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Neil came to me in a period of time where we really needed to kind of change some things in the program, right? We weren't, I wasn't thrilled with where we were, and he came in kind of like a shot of life. And 2 years we win a championship and lose by 3 the next year, and so somebody that knows and has lived and breathed the Sun Belt for years, has won championships with Troy, and I was sad to see him go. Obviously that's his dream. Honestly, not my dream, right? There's I think 6 WNBA openings right now. It's not for me. That's really it just doesn't get me going. It really did and does get him going. And we were talking plenty of times, at least weekly throughout the year, and just one of those things like, well, what are you going to do from October to April? Like, what is the calendar look like? Is it a 12-month deal? Like, I was curious, and so we kind of went down that road a couple of times, very unofficially, but when everything shook down, I was just thrilled to get him back because he's a passionate person, very, very passionate about the game. Now has this huge depth of knowledge from not only Kurt Miller, who's a extremely well-respected college coach and WNBA coach in my mind, but what the Aces ran and what the Lynx ran and what the Mystics ran and so you have all this knowledge where, you're in the Sun Belt, you know really well what Arkansas State runs. Well, how can you help us with, that's a really tough action that the Lynx were running, et cetera. So he's got this big wealth of knowledge, and I'm just excited to put him to use back here. And it doesn't take away from the 2 new additions we have, Alex Tomlinson and Nicole Razor, who have done an outstanding job for us. Kayla Cooper-Williams, who has returned for us and has been here since 2015. You're talking almost pushing a 10th year now with us. So, I'm thrilled with our staff, and he was, I used the Sunday analogy before, but it's a perfect one. I mean, he's a cherry on top for us, and is really going to just help us and be here to win games.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's a copycat sport, right? Whatever's working elsewhere, what can you bring into the program, et cetera? I think that's awesome. You did a great job with Steve sort of breaking down some of the new additions, plus like some of our returners, right, coming into this year. We talked about off the air a lot that every year teams have different personalities, right? They have different styles, personalities with each other, personalities on the court. Without giving away too much of your secret sauce for tomorrow, like tell us a little bit what we as JMU Nation can expect out of this group for 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, I hope you're just watching a competitive group, right? And if they're not going to be competitive, we're gonna have some tough hits to the face here. So that's what I saw with this group, and that's There's a point in time we were working on, I think it was an offensive play. Usually in the summertime, we give them like, all right, we're running, we call it 5 high, right? And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we're running just that action. And so we were keeping score, and they were so concerned with the score, they weren't running the action right. They were just trying to score. And it's like, no, listen, like, and we had to unplug the scoreboard. It was like, no, I don't, stop looking at that. Like, I want you to run the play and execute the play and get better at this. We have time where you can break somebody and break the play and go get a layup. But that's what this team is. And I think, that's who I am, right? And I want people in this program that have the same personality as me. And I like the differences of it. But as far as being competitive, that's who I am, and that's who I want around me. And so that's what I think you're going to see from this team is we're going to compete and we're going to fight, and hopefully the results will follow that, but in the end, you're going to see a team that really competes and fights.
Well, Sean, before we let you get back to your preparations, we know you have a film session to do with your team. We thought it'd be a nice gesture. You've obviously, JMU's your alma mater. You've been in a coaching capacity at JMU since 2007. For you to wish your counterpart, who's down the hallway from you in the Atlantic Union Bank Center, some messages of good luck and what any other wisdom you would impart to him as he embarks on his first game in Harrisonburg.
I'm just going to wish you luck, Coach P, because I tell you what, you got this thing just fine. I get to watch him, right? The practice gym is below our offices. I get to just turn around and sit there and watch him. But no, I wish you the best of luck, man, on the journey. And the community's going to love you. The community's going to love what you do.
Appreciate it, Coach, man. Hope you enjoy getting a big win up there in Kent, Ohio, and travel home safely.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. And appreciate you guys for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
And please wish your players well. We know it takes a lot of sacrifice both on and off the court to get to this moment. And we'll all be watching tomorrow and excited to see this team as it goes on what's going to be a pretty memorable journey throughout 2024 and into 25. So all the best and get a win tomorrow and safe travels back to Harrisonburg.
Hey, thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody listening too.
Thanks, Coach. And Preston, before we get started with the basketball questions, it's crazy because it seems like just yesterday you were announced as the head coach of JMU men's basketball. You've done a few things since then, moving your family to Harrisonburg, recruiting an entirely new roster. What is the last, just whirlwind for you and your family just to go through this experience and to be less than 24 hours from tip-off? It's got to be pretty special, but also just crazy what's happened in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, you're not kidding, man. It's really been a lot, but we've had different pockets of downtime and able to catch our breath and get acclimated, obviously, to Harrisonburg and just the culture here at JMU. We've been to volleyball games, we've been to baseball, we've been to every football game, and so we've been fully immersed in what JMU has to offer, which has just been amazing, and so. It's really exciting as we sit here, under 24 hours away from, coaching my first game. I've coached a lot of practices, a lot of reps and drills and things like that inside the AUBC. But when those lights come on and the fans get in there, it's going to be a different type of energy. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I actually just thought of one more question because it's just great. Your wife is pretty active on Instagram. And seems to be the first person to comment on one of our stuff or any of the other JMU accounts. What's it like to have a partner and a spouse who I know is not only so invested in the Instagram, I as kind of a segue to get into somebody who's with you in every aspect of your life and is so invested in the success, not only of you and your family, but really so bought in and really invested in the success of this entire university community. It's been so awesome to see her really jump in with both feet as well as your entire family.
Well, I appreciate you giving a shout out, man. I told everybody when I interviewed for the job that she was really going to be the real superstar here, and that everybody would love her. And she's certainly lived up to that. But she's on the social media. I'm not. She has to remind me to tweet some things out, or she'll show me stuff because I really try to stay away from that. But she's all in. I mean, our whole family is. That's the way that we are. And so we're watching everything, JMU. We're obviously the football games. Like I said, we're going to be at all those games of Coach O's. You don't have to hype up the unbelievable tough schedule that he's put together, we're going to be there, even if they are playing the Little Sisters of the Poor that you mentioned. But our family is certainly all in and excited to crank this thing up tomorrow.
Well, please tell her it is appreciated and it is noticed, because she's just a breath of fresh air, and it's been awesome to watch her be embraced by the JMU community as well. So I definitely wanted to lead with a shout out to her.
No, she'll appreciate that for sure.
Well, let me jump in and ask you, on your bookshelf back there at the top, you've got, it looks like a bottle of something between two basketballs. What is that? Looks like Maker's Mark.
You know, that's a 2024 OVC tournament championship Maker's Mark there. That was a going away gift that the people back in Moorhead gave us at a dinner that we had just before we officially moved here to Harrisonburg. And it's a custom label, actually, with myself and our team from our championship last year. So, and it's
Nice.
dipped in blue and gold, wax. So pretty cool gift. Big bourbon guy, as you know, Steve. And so excited to welcome in that Champions Drive bourbon into my Kentucky bourbon collection. That's the only non-Kentucky bourbon that I have, and I'm very proud to have that in my bourbon room here in the house.
Well, here's a bottle. I am modeling it like Carol Merrill on The Price is Right, or on Let's Make a Deal. So we will make sure you get a bottle of this. That is a cool looking Maker's Mark. I thought it was a specially dipped bottle because I saw the gold wax on it, and that's, people don't know, but that's a highly unusual thing because Maker's Mark has that patented, and nobody else can dip wax. And so if they let you dip it in a different color, you've got a pretty special relationship, or somebody does at Moorhead with the folks over at Maker's Mark. So that's a beautiful looking bottle.
Well, we'll see if we can, have some success and win some championships here. And we'll call in some favors to get some purple wax, on some Maker's Mark maybe, and make some gifts for some people.
Oh God, how great would that be? All right, we'll get off the bourbon trail because people don't want to hear about that, and I'll get into some basketball. Let's talk a little bit about your team. I know you've talked about some of those folks. I know it's a bunch of new folks, but can you just give us a quick rundown of kind of, what the team's going to look like? I know we're not going to get into trade secrets of how they're going to play or what you're going to play, but you've got a bunch of guys, and just give people a little bit of that, and then we'll jump into some schedule stuff.
Yeah, we do obviously tons of new faces, but I think we got to start with a guy that's been here, very familiar and has an unbelievable reputation, and Xavier Brown. And so we're so thankful, obviously, that he stayed here, and he's really lived up to that and has become just a huge part of our program. And I think learning the way that we teach the game, the way our culture is, and with our staff, and he's been just a terrific fit for that. He's kind of the fire that makes our team go, and it's been exciting to see just kind of his maturation over this 6 months that we've had him, and how he's kind of become one of our point guards. And so I think he's really going to fall in line of the long line of really talented floor generals and leaders that we've been able to coach over the years. And pairing him with a guy like Mark Freeman, who came with us from Moorhead State, and Mark's had a really good preseason, and he and X together are absolutely electric when they're on the court, and they're a lot of fun to watch. They're a lot of fun to coach, and they can really set the table for the rest of their team and create some magic for themselves as well. We've got a lot of new guys. It's kind of hard to highlight all of them. I do think they're going to all have a big impact. I think, talking about our big guys, Elijah Hutchins Everett has put in just tremendous work since he's gotten here, gotten himself into incredible shape. His strength has really improved, and he's a guy that can, play inside, play outside. He can impact the game with his scoring, with his passing, and it's just a huge mismatch problem, especially here in the Sun Belt level, and going alongside of a guy with equally as impressive size is Ebenezer Dewana, and those two guys really complementing each other well. And the EB's kind of a above the rim lob catcher, rim runner, shot blocker type of guy, and so it's nice when you have the luxury of two quality, starting worthy big men that are very different from one another. It kind of allows you to be able to play just a little bit differently. And then, great size on the wing with, guys like Justin Taylor from Syracuse, Eddie Ricks, who came with us from Moorhead State. AJ Smith coming over from the OVC as well with Southern Indiana. All of those guys, really just giving us some great size and shooting and versatility. Noah Williams has really, started to make some great strides now that he's getting himself healthy and getting into great game shape after having to take a year off with an injury. A guy like Bryce Lindsey, who can really fill it up and missed the season last year. But I think you're hearing me talk about a lot of different guys, many of which didn't play last year. Not only did they not play for us, Steve, but maybe they didn't even play at their previous school last year. And so there's going to be a little bit of time where these guys got to kind of shake off some of the rust and get into game shape and get through the flow of the season. But I think once we do, all those guys that we kind of named off right there are going to certainly give us some depth and experience that could be, really impactful for us.
I don't recall, and somebody will correct me, I'm sure, because we got tons of people that watch on social media and like to correct me. So I don't recall having 2 6'11" guys ever at JMU. So it's going to be interesting to see, that brand. I know you don't really have a true point guard, but with X and Mark kind of running it back there. So I think it's going to be fun the shooters you have on the wings, the guys down below you've got the forward, you got everybody and their brother. This is a loaded, like the women's roster. This is a loaded roster, full of guys that are talented. But, I'm really interested to watch the big guys, because last year against App State's, where we had our biggest problem was just getting, shots blocked right and left at different times. So I'm really, looking forward to seeing, those guys and everybody else. So it's going to be an absolute blast. And I think I'm going to try to get down there to the game tomorrow. I'm going to try to sit beside VJ Mago if he's got the extra ticket. So especially if you keep his kid busy, I know he's managing. So if you keep Tommy busy, I might be able to get a seat with VJ. If not, I'll find another one to watch the hoops, because this is going to be a fun team to watch. And I'll encourage everybody, get to the games. The one that I'm going to go, at least on the road, is we're heading down to Wake. And if we can get a bunch of people from JMU to head down to Wake Forest, I think that's going to be a blast. And I was going to ask you about your schedule. What parts of your schedule excite you before we get into the Sun Belt? But I know there's some good out-of-conference games as well, including Wake.
Yeah, honestly, we've talked a little bit about it. It was just kind of a blank slate when we took over, that there weren't any games that we were going to inherit, outside of the Sun Belt MAC Challenge. And I teased Coach O, especially coming off of talking about the power, the strength of his schedule. Nobody was going to be impressed unless we tried to get the Lakers to come in here and play. And so we were unsuccessful in doing that, but we were able to get, a lot of quality teams, especially, really good mid-major teams. And we wanted to get some local teams. We wanted to get some old rivalries in there. And I think we were able, to really check all those boxes. And, starting off with a really good Ohio team. They've got 4 starters back from last year's team that lost in the MAC championship game. And so for those that don't know how this works on the men's and women's side is, our 2 leagues get together. They choose the dates and they choose the locations, and they kind of go through some preseason polls and figure out who they're going to match up with each other. Well, they were kind of the unanimous number 1 pick in the MAC, and rightfully so, with having so many players back. And then we have 1 player back, and so then they put us, pick second going against those guys. So we're excited for the opportunity, because it's going to be a team that is much like us. They're talented. They've got a lot of depth, but the difference would be that they have tons of experience with one another. And so it's going to be a good challenge for us. You work your way down playing a really good Norfolk State team that, won 24 games last year and always has an opportunity to punch their ticket to March Madness. And was excited to add that game, because it's I like playing in-state games. Why not? I think it's great, for college basketball here in the state of Virginia, and 2 quality teams going against each other. And to be honest, two quality teams that have trouble getting games. And so we might as well play each other and have 2 unbelievable atmospheres over the course of that series. Towson, very similar, tapping into the old CAA rivalries and staying a little bit more regional so that we can get up there and play in front of a lot of fans in Baltimore. Wanted to be able to go down and play a neutral site tournament, right? And so 3 games in 3 days, all really good mid-major teams that are going to be in that winning tournament format. And so, if you want to go and you want to go to the beach and you want to win a championship in March, you might as well get your practice and get it in there in November. And so that was kind of the philosophy. And we wanted to, kind of have a destination and a getaway for our fans to be able to go down there and enjoy and watch some really good college basketball. George Mason, obviously an old rivalry again. I was listening to the fan base and, wanted to, tap into that one and kind of see what we could get going. And so coming off of Thanksgiving is going to be a phenomenal game against those guys. They won 20-some games last year in the Atlantic 10. Really well-coached team and extremely talented. ETSU, played for the SoCon championship last year and went down to the wire against a really good Sanford team in the championship game. So excited to see, what kind of team they put together and bring them into our arena. And then same thing with Utah Valley, quality team that went to the tournament a couple of years ago, and they're going to be a great challenge for us. And so, of course, Wake Forest is ACC opponent. They've got an NBA player on their roster who just barely missed the deadline to get back and pull his name out of the draft. And so they're going to have a great team this year. Steve does an unbelievable job with his crew, and it's going to be a terrific atmosphere to go down there and play them. So, really excited about the schedule. I think we had really good balance. We were able to, space some games out. We were able to get a lot of quality home games for our fans to be able to enjoy. But it's going to be certainly a challenging schedule, and I'd expect every team, that we play to win 20-some games and be at the top of their league standings in our non-conference.
Coach, I think in modern college athletics, right, roster turnover, new personnel is sort of the norm nowadays. One of the players you mentioned was Justin Taylor. So I live right outside of Charlottesville. We all know that name. I think he made a name for himself at St. Anne's Belfield before going to IMG, and then obviously a quick stop before heading over to JMU. Tell us a little bit about what he brings in his game that you expect him to bring to the court this year for men's basketball.
Justin has a toughness about him. He's just got an unbelievable work ethic. He's got a great spirit. He's an elite defender. He knows how to play. He makes other guys better. And, he's just a guy who's obviously been battle tested, having started 32 games last year in the ACC. And he's also a guy who's got great pride coming home to play, right? Justin's mom played here at JMU. And so he's very familiar with our program, and obviously a great name within the state. And so, we're excited for what he brings to us. And he's an unbelievable teammate. I think he just has so much respect throughout our locker room because he is an everyday guy. He's extremely genuine. He's very positive, and that toughness that he brings every rep, every drill is certainly infectious amongst the rest of our team, and is definitely a trait and a quality that we want everybody to mimic.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see what he can do on the court this year. I was actually going to ask you a little bit about your big men with EB and Elijah and sort of the impact they can have, because I think they bring totally different skill sets, which I think is a huge advantage for us in the Sun Belt. But I think you went over that earlier. Let's talk a little bit about, Eddie Ricks, I think Will Lovings-Watts, as well as like AJ Smith. We talked a lot about like size. There's a lot of value right now in 3-and-D players, I think, in all of college basketball, just basketball in general. I think AJ Smith I think he led his prior team in rebounding, which I think was pretty awesome to see. But I think in a prior podcast or interview, you mentioned his scoring is what really caught your attention from his last program. But tell a little bit about those players and like how they fill in the gap on the court for you guys.
Yeah, AJ's done a terrific job. He's a guy that, we saw AJ play every week because he was at Southern Indiana. They were our travel partners in the OVC while we were at Morehead State. And so a lot of respect for him. And, he was a guy that we targeted early on that we wanted to make a part of our program. And, going back to his rebounding, he actually is leading our team in rebounding as we've started practice all the way back to August. And so he's an elite offensive rebounder. He just got a nose for the ball. He plays with a chip on his shoulder and is an extremely physical player. And he can score the ball. He's a mismatch problem. He can score inside. He can step out and make threes. He can pass. And, he's really made big strides since he's been here. Eddie Ricks, obviously coming over with us from Morehead State, and a guy who's got, championship DNA, played almost 30 minutes a game as a true freshman on an NCAA tournament team. And that experience is just incredibly valuable. And he's got length, he's got versatility. He's an extremely gifted athlete, another gifted offensive rebounder and defender. He's really improved his shooting to be just more consistent and more confident in what he's doing with his shooting and his ball skills. And so obviously he's also going to be a guy that we've got familiarity with. He's battle tested, and he's kind of been through those wars with us and come out on the right side of a lot of close ball games with our team. And so that gives you some confidence going into the season with a guy like him. Will's going to be a really good player for us, and unfortunately, he had an injury this year that's going to keep him out. He's going to redshirt for us this season, but excited to see once he gets healthy, gets back practicing with our team, just what kind of impact he can have for us this year, and then how that sets him up moving forward, because I do think he's going to be a really good player for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's going to be really fun to see. I think Steve mentioned, I don't think we've had this level of size or length in a long time at JMU, may not ever. So I'm really excited to see what it comes out tomorrow night. One of our listeners, Brooke Boyd, actually has a really good question, and a part of the news from earlier this week. How do we feel about the new tournament layout the Sun Belt released this past week? I think there's a lot of noise, particularly from the fans around it, but curious to hear your opinion so far.
That's a great question. I wasn't a part of the Sun Belt and, what that tournament format looked like. Talking to some other coaches in the league, I think there was, they weren't really in favor of, kind of the day off that they had in there, right? Because if you were one of the teams that received a bye, then the team that, won in the round ahead of you, they got the chance to play you, they got a day off. And so, I'm in favor of rewarding the regular season. I'm a big fan of that, and I will say in the OVC, this is the same tournament format that we had. The difference being that we didn't take every team to the conference tournament, and so I think if you do finish in the top four, you need to be rewarded. You need to have the best chance to go to the NCAA tournament, and you need to have the clearest path to be able to do that. And I think that's the best thing for the league. That's the best thing to help us to secure a high seed and ultimately win more games in the tournament, which is better for everybody in the Sun Belt. So I'm in favor of it. I'm not really sure the impact that it's going to have on fans and things like that, but we're certainly going to do the best we can to take care of business during the regular season so that we give ourselves the best opportunity once we do get to Pensacola.
Well, Coach, this is the last question for you before we let you get back to your Sunday. You put out a video with JMU basketball talking about the 3 KOs, and you're out really trying to encourage people to make their mark when they're inside the AUBC and help this team really create a unique and powerful home court advantage. What would be your message to the fan base about why that is so important? And again, let's hopefully encourage some more people to make sure the Atlantic Union Bank Center is packed tomorrow night. All 3 of us from Sound Off are going to be in the crowd tomorrow night cheering you on. What's your message to the fan base less than 24 hours from tip off?
We got to have an unbelievable environment, and we got to have incredible energy and just create an awesome home court advantage, because we want to win all of our home games. It's that simple. And, we're going to be an elite defensive team. And certainly to do that, we need the energy from the crowd. And so something we keep up with is, how many consecutive stops that we can get. And so we've always called them kills in the past, right? You get 3 straight, we call it kills, but we decided we're going to call them KOs here. And that was credit to my wife. Once again, give her a shout out. She did a great job coming up with that promotion. But, if we get 3 stops in a row, we're going to call that a KO. And then, so we're going to keep track on the board. You're going to see how many consecutive stops that we have. When we have 2 stops in a row and we're going on defense, our bench jumps up. They're going to go crazy. So we need the student section. We need everybody to get on their feet, to get loud, and to help give us that added energy to get that 3rd stop in a row. And we've got a goal that we want to get 7 KOs in a game. And the numbers are pretty good. If you can get 7 KOs in a game over my 16 years of Division I coaching, you're going to like the results that you get in the win column. And so we need the fans there. We need them loud. We need them to be really rowdy. And our players are certainly going to feed off of that, and they're going to reward the fan base with a great experience coming and playing hard for everybody.
Awesome. Well, Coach, from day one, you've been a class act and have been incredibly welcoming and supportive of the show and with your time and your energy. And we just want you to know we're behind you, really excited. And if you're somebody watching this, jmusports.com, get that last minute ticket if you haven't already bought one for tomorrow night. Let's welcome this team with open arms. They deserve the support. They deserve your passion and energy. And let's make this another special season, both in Harrisonburg and what comes after that. Hopefully, as we make our way into March. So all the best to you, your family, and we're excited to see you tomorrow night, Coach.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. And as always, go Dukes.
All right. Thanks, Coach. And with that, we're going to get back to a little bit of football talk. We're going to bring back Michael and Steve. First of all, man, I don't know about you. Pretty fired up after that chat with both of our coaches. Again, what makes these new coaches here at JMU and Coach O'Regan's been living this since his time at JMU as a student. We just have good people running these programs, and they give of their time. They're so passionate in their investment and making sure the fan base knows just how all in they are on giving everything they can to help these programs to be successful. And I know it's football season. A lot of people haven't turned their attention to basketball, but as we've said a couple of times on this show in the past, is success on the hard court is incredibly important to the success that we see on the football field. The more brand notoriety, the more awareness that comes from having successful men's and women's basketball tournaments, the resources and revenue that come in from those programs is really vital to the health and success of this entire athletics department. So if you want to see us continue that everything school motto, having winning basketball programs is a great way to make sure that we're doing that. And it's really important in the conference realignment shuffles that happen each and every year is having a great facility, which we have now. We have a top-notch facility in the Sun Belt and one of the best facilities really in the country at any level. And the more of an environment that we get that catches the attention of athletic directors and people around the country, it's really, really important that we continue to build a home court advantage. So I hope more people find their way to Harrisonburg this season, whether it's tomorrow night or the many games that are coming up throughout the season. And let's give these teams the best opportunity they have to be successful. Guys, want to start off with some other news that was announced this week. We've all wanted to see a Power 5, Power 4 team come to Harrisonburg. And we make the announcement that we're going to see Washington State come to Harrisonburg next year in a game that
Crimson
is just awesome. And I think it's going to be just another opportunity to continue to put this program on an even bigger stage when you get to host a team of that magnitude and that brand recognition in Harrisonburg. I'll go to you first, Michael. What was your reaction to that announcement and how special of an afternoon you think that's going to be in Harrisonburg next November?
Fireworks, right? I think we've been waiting for quote unquote a P4, P5 program to come to Bridgeforth, and we talked a lot about certain programs, shying away from coming into the Valley, and excited to see what Washington State can do, and also the crowd, right? It's a November 22nd game, right? It's a little bit later in the year. I don't think we have had a sellout sort of that late in the season. Who knows? We still got a little bit of time this year as well, but I think it's amazing news, and I think. I think the downside of it, Utah State's not coming to Harrisonburg. I was kind of looking forward to that, just with that bit of a series, but I think that game is now out of the picture. Yeah, I'll take Washington State, and it's interesting too, right? You look at what App State did a couple weeks ago. I think they did the same thing with Oregon State, and us coming to Washington State. It's good to see sort of like the top of the league really taking ownership on the scheduling front, and I imagine there'll probably be more announcements to come here soon.
Yeah, well, I'd also say just on that, Steve, we shared some text this week about what kind of schedule we're going to have in Harrisonburg next season. When you think of App State coming to
unbelievable,
use Bridgeforth. I mean, this is going to be a schedule for the ages. And when you add this to the mix, and it's one of those that if you don't have tickets, get your priority points up. And maybe that's a good segue because this week, JMU also announced the Honors One program, which is kind of a JMU's approach to NIL and all of the elements that come together in their support of the Montpelier Collective, their support of student athletes, the different services that are available, the exchange, many different ways now that our coaching staffs have the ability now to explain to prospective students and parents just what JMU's approach to NIL is going to be. But as a part of that now, if you make a gift to the Montpelier Collective, you are going to be eligible for priority points, which if you're somebody who's going to want to be in Bridgeforth Stadium for these types of big matchups, those types of gifts to both the Duke Club now and the Montpelier Collective are that much more important. What kind of impact do you think schedules like this, and hopefully more as we move into the future, these types of matchups, what fans now, by making those donations, can really make sure that they can not only support our programs and advance them into the future, but have the opportunity to be present at these games with the advancement of the priority points.
Yeah, I mean, this helps. It's tremendous. So let me comment first on the Washington State piece, because that's a bigger deal than maybe everybody knows, or maybe they do know. But getting a P4, the first one to get to your stadium, that opens up the door then to do regional P4s. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, so don't quote. So people like Steve said that they're coming. I mean, this is the ability to get NC State, Syracuse, those types of folks, hopefully Virginia Tech, but it allows you to start opening up that deal, because when they start seeing number 20, because they're ranked 20 today, they're 7-1. They're a good team. They'll be good next year, and it'll be a blast to have them, in the cold confines of the Valley. We go to Louisville next year as well. So, back to my bourbon type deal, I'll be bringing back massive amounts of bourbon from Kentucky. That's a great trip. We've got Liberty on the schedule. I'll be buying probably 500 devil masks so people can wear them with me, the ones that look really nasty, so I can wear them at Liberty, because that's what those people deserve. Isn't it wonderful they lost this week? Isn't that one of the wonderful things that happened this week, is they lost 2 in a row once again, and lost at home? Couldn't happen to a better fan base. So if any Liberty people are listening, turn it off, because I don't want you to listen to the Sound Off. I don't want you to have anything to do with this.
I live 1 hour away from Lynchburg, and I've still yet to see a Liberty fan, which I think is pretty hilarious.
Although you'll see them down there, it'll be fine. So, and it's a great home slate, but for this year on Honors One, the important part about that is now you get your priority points just like you gave to the Duke Club. And it's all under one umbrella. So what people don't understand is the Montpelier Collective is not the only NIL piece. It's part of the puzzle for JMU, but JMU has a huge NIL program. And so now we're all under one tent. So we've got an educational piece. We've got an ability for local businesses, national businesses to come into the database and do contracts with these kids. Last year, we introduced you to, Isabella Peterson and Where's Woody. She was one of our first athletes to do a deal with a clothing manufacturer. So now you'll have the ability as a student just to go directly to that business and do a deal with those folks. It's great. There's an educational piece. We'll have financial folks talking to them about, how do you handle this? We'll have lawyers talking to them and accountants. How do you read a contract? How do you understand a contract? It's a big life-changing piece, I think, for our student athletes. So the fact that we've got it all under one umbrella will help bring more people into JMU, will help retain more of the student athletes, and will help us continue to grow the program. This is a very important pillar to growing the rest of the program. It's going to help athletics do the next piece that Matt Roan's been talking about in terms of the master plan. This all fits into it. So it's a very important piece. I'm glad we rolled it out. I'm so glad we're getting priority points. It'll help, really raise the profile for everybody.
Yeah, well, shout out to
you mentioned like I think the recruiting impact is huge, because I remember 3 years ago or 3 or 4 years ago when we started talking about NIL, and we were talking about how do we make sure we have a response as a program. And I think now it's through the years of how it's evolved. Now it's under one umbrella. So when a recruit talks to JMU, it's not, oh, here's the collective, here's the Duke Club, here's whatever. It's like, this is James Madison, and this is how we operate. And I think I don't want to understate the value of that, right? Whether it's from the portal or from high school or whatnot, of the impact a unified approach. I don't know. Is there anyone else in the Sun Belt? I mean, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I think we're being very progressive on that front.
I think I don't know if they're doing it, Len. I don't want to speak. I think ODU is doing something similar. I think South Alabama has something similar. It's not going to be as good as ours. I'm going to always tell you that, but I think they have something. And our part, the educational piece of this, I think, is the part that gets lost.
100%. Yep.
And I think really helping the student athletes understand, because remember, they're 18 to 22-year-olds, except for the COVID folks that I think are like 31 or 32 that have been with us since however long COVID's been. But the educational piece is important for the families and for the athletes to really understand what they're signing, what they're entering into, making sure they don't sign a deal. We'll help them hook up with lawyers that can help them so they don't sign away their rights for life. I mean, you've read some of the, the crazy stuff that's happened to some people in other universities where they've signed contracts that said, I'll have your name, image, and likeness, and I'll get a piece of you for your entire life. We're never going to let our folks do that if they come and talk with us. We want to make sure we protect them. That's part of what we're doing.
Well, I just want to say shout out to obviously Matt Roan and his entire team for their focus on this, but also Stephen Laporta, who is obviously going to oversee and work very closely with the Montpelier Collective to make sure that everything is in alignment and that these student athletes have all the support they need to be successful both on and off the court. And if you don't know Stephen, there's no one that works harder at JMU to get this right. And his involvement with the board of the collective has been seamless and is going to make a real impact on what this looks like today, but also what it looks like into the future. So shout out to that team and their integration now with what the Montpelier Collective is doing. Obviously, Cliff Wood and the rest of the board that work on this every day, again, as volunteers to get this right. So excited to see where this goes, but stay tuned because I'm sure there will be additional announcements as we move into the future. Real quick, guys, because we're over an hour now into the episode, but I did want your thoughts. I'll start with you, Michael, on this game. This weekend, Georgia State, it was a wild weekend again in the Sun Belt. The topsy-turvy nature of this conference where you could look like a world beater one week and struggle the next, obviously impacted teams like ODU this weekend. Where's your kind of head at going into our next Sun Belt matchup and where it kind of aligns with what's happening in the rest of the conference in the Sun Belt East race?
Yeah, I think number one, you got to embrace the chaos, right? The chaos that is Sun Belt football, college football nowadays. I think it's fascinating to watch. To your point, you never know what the team is going to, it doesn't matter what the rankings are, right? You just never know what you're going to get. I think number two, before I go into Georgia State, I think this program right now, James Madison, we have an opportunity here to go 4-0 in November. We have another opportunity to self-scout, find what we're good at, find what we've maybe aren't so good at, right, over the last couple of weeks and sort of refine our approach, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams, you name it. I think we want to make this a November to remember, right? Like we control our own destiny here. So going on to Georgia State, I think number one, you talk about a program that has had a lot of adversity, right? Sean Elliott leaves, I think, for a South Carolina job. I think the week of their spring game. Talk about late in the whole department. So half their team left. Del McGee comes in. It was their former running back coach at Georgia. I'll give him his props, right? They've won 2 games, but I'll give him his due. I mean, I think he's done a great job just holding the program together. I think they had 45 players.
Yeah,
they've been very competitive. Talking about we talked about Coach Chesney sort of having to rebuild the ship, following January. Dell had to do this in April, May, and June, right before the season. So I'll give them their due. But what a strange program right now. The team that has 2 wins. One of them is against an FCS team. The other one is against Vanderbilt. Yep. Vanderbilt, which has beaten Alabama, and I believe they beat Auburn.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. So what is this Georgia State program, right? I think number one, we should beat them. I think on paper, just looking at where they are, we should. But number two, it depends on which James Madison program shows up, right? I think it's are we going to show up there and say, oh my gosh, Georgia Southern beats Southern Alabama? Doesn't really matter. Or are we going to show up and go, we're JMU. This is the time that we dominate. And are we going to make a statement on the field at Bridgeforth on Saturday? So I think that's an interesting point there. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you real quick. I think there's a couple of interesting aspects in this game from a coaching perspective we can talk into. But Steve, curious to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, I watched the Georgia State game against UConn on Friday night, and UConn had 300 yards rushing on them and had no problem blowing open holes and just running all over them. The scary thing about this team, this Georgia State team, remember what they did 2 years ago? They came up here and smacked us right in the mouth. And we were down by a ton. I can't remember how much we were down.
We were down 4 scores at halftime or 3 scores, something along those lines.
We came back and won, but it was, this weird game. They played a lot of weird games. They've been in a bunch of games. Barely beat Chattanooga, and then they beat, Vandy. They were, in the UConn game, if you look at the score, it looks closer than it was, but they're never kind of out of it. They still fight hard. Those guys did not quit at UConn. it was clear to me that at least I thought it was clear, but it wasn't, that they were down and out, but they're not down and out. If you look at the Marshall game, when they played Marshall tough. Marshall had to pull away in the last 7 minutes of the fourth quarter. So they're a tough team. I think they're starting a new quarterback. I think he played his second game at UConn. The starter that they brought in or started the year is not the starter this year. I think when he at UConn on Friday night, he threw a pick six. Like the starter got dinged up. He came out. They put the backup who was the starter in. I think he threw a pick six as soon as he was in the game, or he fumbled. He did something that he shouldn't do. I think it was a pick six. So if we should be able to heavy dose run them. Our defense should eat them alive. UConn's defense isn't very good, but they're a tricky in this age of the freaking, portal in this weird year we're having. I don't count any of these guys out. So, I think they're a very good team. I think Georgia Southern's got 2 more losses in them. I'm not, at the end of the day, I would like South Alabama to be able to hold their own. But remember, Georgia Southern's got to go to Coastal. That's a loss. They're not going to play well there. And they got App State coming there. And they got a resurgent Troy team. Troy beat the ever-living snot out of Coastal yesterday. I mean, made them look like they didn't know what they were doing. Troy looked like UVA against them. And I think they rolled up almost more than 500 yards of offense on Coastal.
They dominated them in the line of scrimmage too, which is not something we haven't seen out of Troy this year.
No, but Troy, if Troy's back, Georgia Southern has them on November 16th. So, all we can do is what we can do. I'm with you, Michael. I think we run the table. I don't see us not running the table, but, who knows? And so I think coming off our bye, if we do anything, and this coaching staff has shown me, Coach Chesney has shown me that coming off the bye, Evan Gardner-Webb, we put up 70 and then we returned it with 60. I'll take 70 and 60 again. I'll take 70 Saturday and we'll go down to ODU and score 60. Be happy to see that. And then I'd like to see that trend continue if we can be over 50 in November. So Michael's phrase is the Lexus phrase, a November to remember. So Lexus, if you want to sponsor us, we'll be happy. And my phrase will be 50, over 50 in November, every freaking game. Now that might be a tall tale, hard to do, but damn it, I'm going to be reaching for the stars.
I mean, we have the potential, right? We've done it. We've done it this year.
Let's see. The best way to make our team successful on the field on Saturday is to be loud in the crowd. It's a blackout. So your looks like
I saw that. I thought, did they switch the Marshall game with this one? I thought typically the senior game was the blackout. That was news to me. I don't know.
I don't know if Coach goes for that whole seniors get to pick crap. I think it was picked from a marketing standpoint because I think it might be Military Appreciation Day. I don't know. I think it is. I have to look on our thing. I think it's Military Appreciation Day, and I think that's when they wear it. But I honestly don't know. This year,
I love that it's gonna be a blackout this week. I'm excited for it.
And they are actually giving away some shirts to students this week as well to try to encourage, obviously their engagement and their involvement. So it's another sellout. I will say, Matt Rohn in his messages to fans of the past 2 weeks, really stressing the importance of making sure that Marshall game is sold out as well. What a great message it would send, especially as we're all talking about the need to expand or enhance Bridgeport Stadium, to be able to say we sold out the entire season. So this is a game, even if you can't make it back, buy some tickets and give it to some people in the Harrisonburg community. Let's make this season a sellout, because that's the best way we can show the decision makers involved in this master plan that we need to have Bridgeport expanded and that the demand is there. Every opportunity we get to show that strengthens that argument, because let's be honest, it's going to be a massive investment by this university, by our fan base, to make that happen. And the best way you can do that is to show that with your attendance at these games. Guys, just one last question to both of you. Michael, any final thoughts before obviously we all turn our attention to tomorrow night's basketball game? Michael, you are heading to Harrisburg as well. I know Steve and Chandler and I are as well.
I think I'll do my best. I've posed the question to the real decision maker, so we'll see what she says.
I know. That's why I was looking upstairs and texting and calling to make sure I had permission. So we're going to hit the road in the late afternoon to make sure we're in Harrisonburg. But we'll prod you a little bit more as we go throughout the day to make sure you're there. Your final thoughts, Michael?
Before I go into that, I think it's an interesting game, but also, we welcome back Jim Durning. That's an interesting name on the coaching staff, former strength and conditioning coach at James Madison, now at Georgia State. Also an interesting name on the staff is their running backs coach, Will Healy, who used to be, or still is, right? Yeah. Super hot name from the FCS days. I think he turned around Austin Peay. jumped from Austin Peay to Charlotte, and I think less has to be said
Not
about
go
that.
as well.
But did not go as well, but he's
That
coming
might be
into
a Charlotte thing, though.
Yeah, that could be a Charlotte thing. I think you got a good point there. But I'm excited, man. I think it's like I said, I think the world's our oyster right now. We control our own destiny as we know this. And I think like with the chaos that is Sunbelt football or just college football in general, it's like we have a choice. Like which team wants to show up, and we can talk about X's and O's and all that fun stuff, but at the end of the day, it's the players on the field that have to execute, right? Whether it's a good play or not. So I'm very bullish about Saturday. I think from a 6-2 program, there's some ebbs and flow. There's a lot of like over indexing from this fan base, but that's because we care. We talked about that week over week. But I'm excited to see this team sort of put up their dukes and make a statement on Saturday at Bridgeforth.
Awesome. Steve.
Yeah, I agree with Michael. I mean, if at the end of the day, if you're not excited for November football and the Sun Belt with the teams we're playing, these are the teams that matter. Georgia State, ODU, App State, Marshall. This is why we made the move. Feel free to have a good flight coming up, Georgia State. I know you had a tough flight home from UConn. We're going to rock your world on Saturday. You're going to come in there. I know you had fun at UConn. You probably had some good seafood up at UConn. You're going to have nothing good in Harrisonburg. We're going to boo you from the time you come out for warm-ups until the time you leave. And we're going to boo your bus. So at the end of the day, we're going to boo you like Casey Keeler used to say at Delaware. Even the band will cuss you. I'm not going to cuss you, but I'm going to boo the hell out of you. And we're going to make it so uncomfortable for you, you're going to wish you never left Atlanta like the all of September that you played. So feel free. Enjoy your week of practice. I don't care if you have a good week, bad week, doesn't matter what it is because it's never about you. We're going to roll you on Saturday. Score will be 59-13.
He's back. All right, guys. To Taylor, I don't know where Taylor was at. I know he's off, but I forget what his reasoning was. But I'm sure Taylor's going to watch this back. I hope you enjoyed your bye. And I know Taylor will be back in Harrisonburg, and he's excited for basketball season too. I know Taylor makes as many trips as pretty much anybody does to games, regardless of who the opponent is. He finds his way into the Atlantic Union Bank Center. So I hope he enjoyed his bye week. To the fans, hope to see you tomorrow night. Like I said, Steve and I are definitely going up. Hopefully Mike will be there. Chandler's going to be as well, our producer. But excited to tip off another season of JMU basketball. To the coaches who joined us again, Preston Spradlin, Sean O'Regan, we are so grateful for your time, especially on the eve of your first nights. Just shows again their commitment to the fan base and to having these types of conversations. As always, it's appreciated. To our sponsors, the Montpelier Collective, Where's Woody, Talent Corps, Your Purple Nation, and Shoker Enterprises, thank you for your support. And to the fans of JMU, as always, we are so grateful for you spending some of your Sunday night with it. And as always, go Dukes. We'll talk to you the rest of the week.